Welcome to the Townsend Institute podcast series, Tips, a show produced by the Townsend Institute at Concordia University, Irvine. This podcast provides tips into leadership, coaching, and counseling topics aimed at helping listeners grow in both their personal and professional lives. I'm Dr. John Townsend, psychologist, organizational consultant, and author of over 30 books, including the New York Times best-selling Boundaries series. I'm also the founder of the Townsend Institute, and I'm excited to introduce your podcast hosts, Townsend Institute Program Directors Dr. Ashley Andrew and Dr. Gilbert Fugit.
Welcome back, everyone, and Happy New Year. We hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. To kick off the new year, we're sitting down with Dr. Townsend to discuss a very popular topic this time of year, New Year's resolutions.
That's right, Ashley. New Year's resolutions are on many people's minds. And congratulations if yours are still going and you haven't given up yet. But for those, who are struggling days into the new year, hopefully Dr. Townsend Insights today will help you get back on track. Let's get started.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the first episode of the new year, welcoming you all to 2024. And we're joined here today by Dr. Townsend himself. Welcome back, Dr. Townsend. Happy New Year.
Hi, Ashley. Hi, Gilbert. Good to be here. Happy New Year.
I'm so glad you can be with us.
We're going to go ahead and jump right into it today. We're going to take it back a few years now, Dr. Townsend. 4 years ago, back at the end of 2019, you wrote a short article on your website titled Your One Thing Recipe for Success in the New Year. Now, that new year was 2020. I think it's safe to say many people's resolutions, plans, and anticipation for 2020 went out the window, or at least weren't as expected. So this is our opportunity here today to revisit that conversation. So let's get started with, why do you think New Year's resolutions are so popular? Can you talk a little bit about maybe the neuroscience or psychology behind that?
Yeah, it's really the science of hope, I think, more than anything, Ashley. When we go through life, it's just hard to think that tomorrow is not going to get better in any way. I mean, we go into dread and despair. We get detached. We get kind of, okay, just forget it all. And our brain needs to get those hormones, those endorphins that are more positive, and like, if you do a few things, it'll be okay. And we're also memorial type people. We like memorializing things. We like milestones. I mean, what's your birthday? July 4th and this sort of thing. And the first is just kind of a natural memorializer of, I didn't handle, the last year as much as I wanted to. I kind of, wasn't as nice to my friends. I didn't make as much money as I wanted or whatever. And so the milestones, the brain goes, there's a milestone, just like your birthday, just like Christmas, just like 4th of July. And the first symbolically is New Year, literally New Year. And I've got hope. It brings me back to hope. Like, maybe there's some things I can do to make life better instead of being in a state of paralysis and helplessness. We hate that, and our brain hates that.
That makes a lot of sense. The hope, right? Everybody's got this hope as a, enter a new year, right? I mean, it's like what, I don't know, being a Cubs fan or something like that. All the teams are like, or we have some relatives that are Browns fans. So every year they got a chance maybe to win the Super Bowl.
Can you handle the emails on this podcast? Because I think you're going to need to read those, not me. I'm not saying this stuff, just Gilbert is.
Yeah, that's true. Email it to ashley.andrew because she'll want to read all that. But So what do you think are some of the benefits, but also some of the downfalls of New Year's resolutions?
I think that there are downfalls, but I think that the benefits net out more important than the downfalls. I would say that start with the downfalls. I'm always one of those. When somebody says, do you want bad news or good news? Like, give me the good news. Give me the bad news first. I want to get that out of the way. Some of the downfalls is that there is a risk. There's a risk of failure of whatever your metric is, poundage or money or time that you spend playing with your kids or, devotionals or whatever. And risk is always a downfall, but, nothing happens in life without risk, no reward. The second downfall of making them is some people get into a mentality of, this is the only time I got to do it. By April, I forgot what it was. Oh, forget it. I can live like I want to, and so they don't keep that continued sort of like urgency and that sort of thing. So, but they're the only two: risk and failure, feeling bad, and like losing urgency. But the benefits are several. One is they alert the brain to this is important to our values, our core values. And if your core values are relationship or business or church or your family or health or whatever, the brain loves these little resets. You know how you reset, when you call your IT guy and he says, what am I going to do? And he goes, oh, just reboot it. I mean, that's how they make all their money, is reboot. Well, it's the same thing with the brain. It goes, this is important. We're starting all over again. Number two is that it gives us a chance to muster up the support and strategy we've got to have. Because if you've got a good support and if you've got a good strategy and you've already kind of like put the obstacles in your head already, you've already budgeted for them, you got a lot better chance. So, and third, well, if you don't do it, what's going to happen again? The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. So, we have our podcast in early January 2025. If you're this same because you didn't do any resolutions, then you are by definition psychotic. You don't want to be crazy.
So, we hopefully, that's true. We want to limit the amount of psychotic people out there. I like that.
Got to help them be more reality based, which, so many leaders, so many people in business, so many people, coaches and counselors, they kind of get a little crazy during the year. But if you do this in the beginning and you do it right, not just kind of a one and done, it can really make a difference. You'll feel happy. And that's why I always say this in my blogs. This isn't about this year. This is about feeling this way next year and going, hey, I'm different. I did a few things and I'm okay. This is about feeling great about what's going to happen 1 year from now. It's a long-term strategy.
You talk about let's do it right, how we do it right. So, what are some suggestions that you oftentimes give your clients and you can hopefully offer our listeners here today who are looking to make change in their life?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ashley. I'll give you a kind of the menu that I give my clients. The first one is the why. And I'm not talking about why I do this. Now, we got to go back and we got to do a little bit of an autopsy. Why did last year's resolutions not work? Because if you don't do that, you're going to be at risk for it again. And you'll find out I didn't have good boundaries. Anybody ever heard the word boundaries? It's kind of an important word.
A few times.
Okay. And so I didn't have any. So I let, a lot of our podcast folks are very high capacity people. And so people are attracted to high capacity people. They want their wisdom and they want their encouragement. Well, if you don't have good boundaries, your year is going to be taken up with, well, this person needed my help, had to put this person's fire out. Oh, they were struggling. And end of the year, you go, well, nothing happened because I was busy putting fires out of nice people. This isn't bad people, but you've got to have boundaries. There's a great proverb that I love. It says Proverbs 4:23. It says, guard your heart, for from it flow the well springs of life. You got to guard your heart. And that means you got to go back and go, where did I not guard my heart? Second thing you do is I had unrealistic ones, and I'll go into that in next year. Watch out for the unrealistic, a monster. And then the other one was just no plan, no support. And we'll go into those. But the why is huge. All right. The why of the past. So buckle up, look at the bad stuff, say, yes, I failed, but I'm a nice person and get rid of it. All right. Then secondly, before you even start your resolution, I think you need to get a little support team. We talk about this here at the Townsend Institute is what's your life team? Who are your comrades? And get, I don't know, 2 or 3 people besides your spouse. Don't burden your spouse with I don't have money or I don't have time. They already know about that and they love you, but take somebody besides that, 2 or 3 friends and just say, I'm figuring out these things. Can I talk to you for a few minutes, once a week, once every 2 weeks? Got to have the support team. The brain requires love. It's not just that we're smart people and disciplined people. Those are necessary, but not sufficient. So you got to be vulnerable. Who is safe with me? That's not going to shame me and it's not going to forget it. The third thing I always tell people is get the vision going. Get a little. I've got a 4x8. I'm looking at it right now. 4x8 whiteboard where I do my planning. you guys came over to the house the other night and saw it, where all my brain goes, write something out or on a piece of paper and say, just dream a little bit, and only dream of maybe. I always tell people, do more, no more than three: something personal, something professional, something either. In Townsend Leadership Program that we're all involved in, which is the leadership professional group. Every year you have a stretch goal: personal, professional, and either. And that the brain can't handle more of that. Can probably can't handle those that very well, but you can get them off. But just vision them. But after that, get realistic about the goal. I mean, I had a client one time that said, "Yeah, my business, I want to double my business this year." And we looked at his numbers. He'd been doing the business for 30 years, and I said, "You've been going about, I don't know, 6%, 8%, 10% a year." "Yeah, I'm going to double this year." "Why?" "Because I am." "Because that's not a plan." And we had all these arguments, and then finally he said 12%, which he made. So make it realistic. Don't beat yourself up. You'll be even more discouraged in 25. So make it realistic. Then put a plan together. What's it going to take? And that just has to do with, we all know about this here, all of us in leadership, is a thing called a strategy. Very simple. What am I going to do every week for the next 52 weeks to get this done? That's kind of it. It's a simple menu, but it really works.
John, it's simple, but boy, we sometimes complicate that, right? So
Oh, Mark,
much.
yes.
Yeah. You mentioned that vision board, that you have. I actually, that really resonated, because when I was over there and I saw it on the board, I go, yeah, he's taking it seriously. This is really what we want to do.
Yeah, I
And
got more ink than I do white space on my vision board.
no, there was a lot of great things, and yeah, and then that means we can keep pushing it out in front and think about it and talk about it and not let it just disappear. You're right. By the time April comes around, wait, didn't he have? No. Yeah, we don't forget about it. So I think that's great. I love it. Aside from personal change and growth in the new year, we talk about Townsend Institute, but all kinds of organizations may also, this might be helpful to businesses and organizations. What recommendations do you have for today's leaders?
Number one, thank you for what you do. Here at TIPS, we can't tell you how many leaders we work with who are out there for the right reasons. We all want to be successful, but everybody we talk to, they've got a great mission. They want to make the world a better place. They want to, they're willing to work hard to leave their stamp on a world that's kind of struggling. So thank you for what you do. And the first thing I would say would be, and this is going to be a little counterintuitive, but what's new about that? Don't start with the business one or the organization one. Start with yours, because it's like when I wrote Leading from Your Gut, I talk about vision and mission, and there's a cascading. If you get your own self, you and your world and your values and where God wants you, and you get that straight in your head about you as an individual and your family, then you can sit down with your organization, whether it's a for-profit or a corporation or a family-owned business or whatever, a church, and you can say, now this is where I'm going in life. How do I cascade that down to there? So once you've done that for yourself, then you sit down, and I always tell people, to have a really good approach on New Year's resolutions is basically the matter of you can have whatever you're leading, if it's a department or division or the business itself, you come up with the overall view, but you've got to bring your key people into the framing up. Because if you just do the whole thing and they say, okay, here, and you say, here's my little PowerPoint, here's what we're going to do, guys. I hope you like it. There's a thing called alignment. And if you don't bring them in early when the cement's still wet, it's going to suck. They're going to go, wow, yeah, thank you that I have no choices here and I'm your CFO. So you got to start the original, to strike the original match about we're going to do this in Smith sneakers. We're going to accomplish this. That's what I love. Is what we all love. But I really need you guys' help for the incremental changes and what's the strategy going to look like. You got a lot better chances of them being on board because they had some kind of agency in it. Huge, huge, huge.
Talk about that in our classes here in the Institute, especially we talk about our organizational change class, our culture class, building that coalition, right? Having those alongside you to help carry out whatever that's going to look like. So,
you know what? We just had graduation. Actually, we were all there at it, and we graduated all these students. And I was talking to leadership students, and I was saying, okay, what's the one thing you learn with your master's in organizational leadership or your master's in coaching? They said it's the people part. We get the strategy. We understand that. But now I've been kind of isolated. I'm kind of a lone ranger, and that doesn't work. And I found the value of the team. It's all about relationship.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I want to reiterate that point you made just a second ago about starting with the personal, right? You've mentioned now a few times how important it is to have that support system. So perhaps that's why we start with the personal, to make sure that those closest to us are in a good place. We've got our support so that when we take those resolutions, changes, what have you, to our divisions, our departments, our businesses, we're able to handle what's thrown at us because
Mhm.
we have the closer at home behind us. That's really great.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, we have to turn the tables then a little bit. You shared a little bit about what you do with your clients. Dr. Townsend, are you willing to share with our listeners? Do you have any New Year's resolutions heading into the new year? Anything you can share with us today, big or small?
I've got a big one, and you guys know about it. I'm writing a textbook, and
Yeah.
it's about
Well,
going to be about counseling because I want to work on a leadership textbook and a coaching textbook, but the first one's a counseling textbook because we have all three programs at the Institute. And a textbook is different than a book. You know, the average American book is written at the eighth grade level. Whether it's me or James Patterson or Stephen King or whatever, that's the norm. And our faculty here said, "Can you write a book at the 17th grade level," which is up there for grad school and that sort of thing. And so I'm writing the whole thing from where what we call it theory and diagnosis and then treatment. Any book you write, there's technical theory, diagnosis, treatment. And it starts with God and the fact that he made us a certain way. And then a thing called the fall happened and all went reversed. So now what do you do? Because now people are depressed, got awful relationships, don't feel happy about their careers. So how do you diagnose the problem? And then how do you fix it? And it's going to take I've started it already, but the resolution is I need to finish it by August because I want to get it to our students. I want to get it to everybody in any grad school that's interested in counseling, and I also want to get it to people that have graduated. We have so many of our graduates said I need the book. That's my big scary one.
well, we are here to support you. We were fortunate enough, like you said, Gilbert and I, to see some of that sketched out on your whiteboard in your office. And it's an exciting thing. And hey, anytime you start with God, you're already on the right track. So there you go.
That's kind of the North Star, isn't it?
I think so.
And John, I like that. It's like you said, one of those big audacious goals, and something you've been thinking about for a while. And what I love is you as we were looking at this, you're doing what you were talked about. You're creating a structure. You talk about writing outlines before you even start writing the words. So it's not just you're sitting down at a computer and twiddle your thumbs and see what happens in a couple hours. So
I tried that with a couple of books I've written, I don't know, 30 or so. And I would, in a month, I would say the same thing, use the same story about the kid with the kite and the pony and all that. And I think, wait a minute, did I say that? So now it's all out. I outlined for months. I read the top 60 books in counseling, took notes on those. And then after the top 60 books, then what I did was basically the outlining phase of each chapter. Because once I finish all that, then the book's a typing job. And to your point, I do have a support team now.
yes.
Like the last 10 books I've had a support team. And these people, you know what they do? They kind of follow the relational nutrients because they check in with them like weekly or bi-weekly because you get writer's block. And so our four types of relational nutrients. One is just be present with somebody and don't blab or give advice. Sometimes they need to get in the well with me because I had a hard day. It was a struggle. The content was a struggle. I need that. Sometimes I need somebody to give me the good and say, I just heard, you wrote these 14 words, but they're a good 14 words. You didn't write 1,000, but you wrote those. And I feel like a Prozac hit when they say that. Or some of them just need to give me a wisdom, provide reality, quadrant 3. And they go, think about this because, you're going somewhere, but what about putting this in? I've never thought about that. That's the wisdom and reality part. And then the fourth quadrant of nutrient is call to action. When they go, well, you were stalled all day. Why don't you go to, either work out or have a Ben and Jerry's? Those don't work together very well, but do something nice. And I'll be thinking about you tomorrow and kind of push me to action. So the support team has saved my whole life doing that.
I hope our listeners are paying attention because you're not doing this as a lone ranger, right? Your support team, you need those relational nutrients to really make these big goals happen. So, yeah.
We give out of gas without it.
Yeah.
Think about all the times, I mean, our listening audience, that you've started some initiative, some project. You thought, this is it. It's going to change everything. And then you get the initial, I mean, the speed bumps that always happen. There's always little speed bumps and big speed bumps. And you think, well, I'll just power through. Well, I'm here to tell you, powering through has limited value. Sometimes you can, and sometimes you cannot.
You read 60 books in preparation for writing this other book. So you obviously do a lot of research when you're doing anything. So as you think about New Year's resolutions, goals, stretch goals, all that stuff, what other books or podcasts or materials out there do you recommend for our listeners as they want to achieve success, both personally and professionally in the new year?
Some of my favorites are people that y'all know very well, like Pat Lencioni's great. I love Craig Groeschel. People like that are thinkers and they think on the edge. They do great work.
Very good. Good recommendations. We also have to plug a previous podcast episode with our own Gilbert, who talked about stretch goals and expanding a little bit on the intricacies of those. So we certainly encourage our listeners to go back and listen more to that advice, because Gilbert, you offered our listeners some great take home points there. Well, as we start to wrap up this, our first episode in the new year, you know how we do this, John. We always end our episodes with the takeaway tip. So as the first takeaway tip of 2024, what can you offer our listeners?
Well, let me go back to Proverbs 4:23, Ashley, where it says to guard your heart. If you're going to apply, if you liked any of these ideas we're talking about on the podcast, there's a 5-minute thing. And we're asking for 5 minutes here. I know we asked for 25 minutes because you're doing your laundry or working out while you listen. We asked for 5 more, okay? And those 5 are to be a little bit selfish in putting together these ideas. Life takes over. People are going to call you, and there's emails to answer, and there's all this. Give yourself 5 minutes. What are we? We're in early January, just to say, this is about me, not because I'm a self-centered narcissist. This is about me because God made a me, and he wants it to be a functional me and a high-performing me. And just to say, what does it look like? And what will happen is those endorphins will hit your brain and go, you've got potential, and this is the one I want you to work on, and this is the one that'll make all the difference. That 5 minutes will come out to be a great year if you do these steps.
Thank you, John. I think that probably hits a lot of people and lands with them because, especially if you got kids, you got other responsibilities and all, it's hard. Sometimes they're like, man, I'm just happy to get a shower in for the day, right? And so 5 minutes, but to be a little selfish, to say, hey, no, this is important. I love it. Thank you for sharing that tip.
That's exactly right. We all don't have weeks or months to dedicate or even hours on a particular day, but 5 minutes.
Not a luxury we have.
Oh, no. Well, thank you again, John. Happy New Year to you. And we're looking forward to another great year.
Thank you. And Happy New Year too.
Special thanks to Gadesla Labawa, CUI alumni, for the Tips Podcast music. If you enjoyed the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website, cui.edu/Townsend, to find out more about the certificates or bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University, Irvine. With programs in organizational psychology, mental health counseling, executive coaching consulting, and organizational leadership, we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all while further developing your competence and character. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.